For our session and to open our session, I would like to welcome a very close colleague, a member of my team, Dr. Jennifer Stone, who'll be presenting to us about innovations in systematic reviews of etiology and risk. And this is, we do have a chapter in our manual for evidence synthesis focused on this, and this is really one of the methodology groups that I guess we are reinvigorating now for 2024 and moving forward with an exciting program ahead, which Jennifer is going to tell us about. So Jennifer is a research fellow, yes, in JBI, in the Synthesis Science Division of the University of Adelaide, and she has a very strong background in both psychology and indeed clinical epidemiology, and with a specific focus on two of her passions, and these passions have really helped us further a lot of this research in JBI over the last couple of years since Jennifer joined us, around risk of bias assessment and the like. So on that score, please welcome Jennifer to the stage. Thank you.
So today I have the privilege of talking to you about a topic that lies at the heart of public health research, and that is systematic reviews of etiology and risk. These are my disclosures. And so today I'm going to provide some background and refresh your memory on what systematic reviews of etiology and risk are. And then I'll discuss the program plan, and this is going to be about who we need and what we want to do. And then I'll finish up with what we need and where this will leave us. So promotion of healthy lifestyle and prevention of illness are the cornerstone of public health and require the implementation of evidence-based policy and recommendations. And these are often underpinned by systematic reviews that respond to questions of causes of disease and risk factors. So everyone here is probably familiar with systematic reviews of etiology and risk and what etiology is and what risk factors are. But just in case, etiology refers to the study of the causes or origins of health conditions within a population, helping us to understand why and how certain health conditions develop. And similar to this concept is risk factors, which involves identifying factors that increase or decrease the likelihood of developing a particular health condition or progression of a disease. So while etiology explores the deeper understanding of causes and mechanisms of disease, risk factors help in identifying and addressing specific factors that contribute to the elevated or decreased risk of disease occurrence. So now I've used the word disease here, but we can really be talking about well-being or any other health outcome. And risk factors can be protective or detrimental. They're not always bad. And this is the intervention exposure continuum that I've adapted from Julian Higgins. And at one end, we have interventions that are modifiable and that we usually associate with trials. And at the other end, we have traits that are generally non-modifiable. And between these two parameters, there are actions we can consider, sometimes as an exposure and sometimes as an intervention. So for example, exercise can be considered an environmental or occupational exposure or a lifestyle behavior. It's what people are choosing to do. And we can also consider this as an intervention, so it's what we give people. And so the middle area on the continuum is kind of a transition zone where we have both the exposures and the continuums, and the different levels of how modifiable they are. So the types of exposure we primarily address in etiology and risk research are environmental and occupational types of exposures. And this is pretty much what we do and what is around us. And so this is the things that people experience that they may have some control over and are therefore modifiable. And so because these are modifiable, they raise a lot of issues, particularly in systematic reviews. So some of the challenges with exposure research is defining the exposure, because unlike interventions, it's very difficult to define when they start, their change over time, frequency, compliance, period of exposure. And so these are very much what we call unstandardized exposure measurements. Another of the key aspects of systematic reviews of etiology and risk is that most of the time we're combining exposures that come from different types of observational study design. So this is your cohort, case control, and analytic cross-sectional study designs. And this compounds the issue of unstandardized exposures and introduces methodological differences between your studies. And so we have this clinical and methodological diversity, and it becomes very difficult to combine this type of data in your systematic review. And so many of you who have attempted one of these reviews will already know that there are unique challenges associated with synthesizing etiology and risk research. We're typically dealing with non-randomized, naturalistic studies, so much more loosely controlled than your experimental studies. And so, as I just mentioned, there's issues of combining different observational study designs and unstandardized exposures. Another challenge is the increased complexity in dealing with etiology, because it's often multifactorial. And so all of this leads to quite a lot of heterogeneity between your studies and makes approaching this type of data quite complex. So in addition to the increased complexity is that there's many aspects of systematic reviews of etiology and risk for which we still don't have consensus on the best methods, and we're still lacking comprehensive evidence for. So a lot of the methodological guidance in this field has been uncritically transferred from systematic reviews of effectiveness, and this is an important problem to address because many of these systematic reviews contain errors. And so recently we conducted an umbrella review at JBI, and 20% of the systematic reviews in that umbrella review contained fundamental errors and needed to be excluded from the studies, from the umbrella review. And so as a field, we haven't invested the same amount of time and effort as we have into effectiveness reviews of experimental studies, and there's a lot more observational studies out there, a lot more than RCTs. And so by creating JBI guidance, we are trying to address some of these challenges. This program will allow us the opportunity to bring some innovative thinking into how we make use of this type of evidence. So this is our bigger picture objectives for JBI reviews of etiology and risk, and I'll get to the details soon. But ultimately, we want to develop an evidence and consensus-based guidance that's easy for reviewers to pick up. So this is based on a 4-phase process, and so we're starting with the people and their organisation. We will launch the group, and this will involve inviting experts to be part of the JBI Etiology and Risk Methodology group, and some other experts to join the advisory board. And some of this innovation is about how we're going to work together. So it's a new model of working in these groups collaboratively to get to a really important end point. And so once we get the people sorted, we'll then do a formal gaps analysis looking at the current state of the chapter. And what we'd really like to get from this chapter is a plan for how we're going to create the guidance. And so this will involve some research, such as a scoping review and a gaps map to assist in understanding what recommendations we have available to us. And this will also allow us to put together a fairly exhaustive research program. Next, we'll conduct methodological research outlined in the research program to fill as many of the gaps as we can based on what we have identified. So this will allow us to refine the methodology for etiology and risk reviews prior to the next step, which is to develop comprehensive guidance. So in this step, we'll largely be focused on bringing all of the evidence together, writing the chapter and disseminating this. So we'll have the final guidance chapter, which is chapter 7 on etiology and risk reviews. And so the first step was to launch the group, and to do this we need a team. And this will be the JBI Etiology and Risk Methodology group. And they will be responsible for overseeing the program direction and contributing to the methodological projects. And then we need a small member group of experts to be part of the interdisciplinary advisory board. And this will be made up of discipline-specific methodologists, biostatisticians, and health policy experts to inform our methodological projects and provide consultancy. So they'll provide key expertise in all stages of the program, and they'll also be able to facilitate expansion of the Etiology and Risk Methodology group to get the work done in the specific areas that we need. They'll also assist in the creation of guidance, largely in providing their expertise and critical review of the initial drafts written by the Etiology and Risk Methodology group. So this is a visual of the organisational structure of the group and some of the involved parties, and this is how we currently work. And so as Ed described on Monday, for those of you who were here, the Etiology and Risk Methodology group sits under the JBI Scientific Committee. And questions that arise during the projects that are pertinent to all types of reviews inform and will be informed by the working groups. And so there will be mutual interaction between the Etiology and Risk group with the Scientific Committee and the working groups. And then we're going to introduce an advisory board. And so this is new. These people along the bottom help the Etiology and Risk group, and they might be members of the JBIC or the advisory board or other external experts that we decide to consult with. And there are other groups also that we know who are interested in this type of work, and we don't want to work against them or duplicate efforts. We really want to work with them. So we're going to reach out and see if they want to work with us and join us in this group and on this program of research. And so there will be opportunity to collaborate or perhaps even co-badge the Chapter 7 guidance. And so the innovation that I really want to get across to you today is around how we're going to work and with who. And so based on a preliminary assessment of the chapter, these are some of the areas where there is opportunity to inform our reviewers further. And this is preliminary because we will be further informed by the scoping review and gaps map of the available recommendations, and that will inform our methodological research. But the first step is really to look at the current chapter. And this is an overview of the scoping review that we have planned, and we want to look at what we have in terms of guidance and identify the gaps. We also want to identify the fields of the disciplines in which these gaps occur, because this might give us additional insights into who we can collaborate with. And so this is a preliminary plan for methodological research. And again, this is based only on where we already see opportunity and will be further informed by the group and the gaps analysis. But this is what we might be focusing on. And for some of this is innovation for JBI. And so we plan to look more into generalizability of the findings for systematic reviews of etiology and risk. And this is up front in the PEO framework, as it would be important to specify some of this or the plans for this up front, but it's also going to inform the interpretation of results. There's additional considerations for bias in etiology and risk research, which need to be further explored and elaborated. And meta-analysis, so this is a huge area, and this includes models and methods, and it's going to rely very heavily on the expertise of the advisory board. So some of this research is going to include handling of the exposure data and unstandardized exposures, as I mentioned before. And we definitely want dose-response meta-analysis at the forefront of this chapter. There's new research in IPD meta-analysis and methods to combine big data with aggregate meta-analysis. And this is something that we'd really like to be involved in. It's occurring elsewhere, and we'd really like to bring that expertise into our group. There's meta-regression, and that's particularly important to look at factors such as confounding in observational designs, and the methods around meta-regression. So this might be handling of missing data and such things. We've got bias-adjusted meta-analysis to explore. We've recently also been looking into new methods for visualizing synthesis. We've also put together a program of research in exploring the common errors seen in these types of reviews and how these errors can be avoided so that we can integrate this into the chapter so that our reviewers are aware of these. And interestingly, we have we'd like to find out particularly how etiology and risk reviews inform policy development, or how they're used in policy development. And so we've developed a program of research in this area that will also form part of our methods guidance, so that our reviews can be tailored to the people who are going to use them. So all of this research will, or what we have planned so far, will provide an opportunity to enhance our guidance for our reviewers and improve knowledge in the field. So ultimately, we'll be updating the guidance provided in Chapter 7 of the JBI Manual for Evidence Synthesis, and this is what some of the guidance development might look like. So the etiology and risk group will largely be responsible for writing the initial drafts of the chapter. It will go through multiple rounds of critical review. We'll draw on the expertise of the advisory board and the JBIC, and we'll likely involve the JBIC in testing some of our methods and reading some of our drafts to make sure they make sense. And dissemination will be through the manual, of course, and also the help of our comms team. And so we're going to be working with the different groups and tapping into new and existing networks for all of this work. And what we need to make all of this happen is expertise. This is a very different take on how our groups have worked previously, and it's going to be more complex, more time-consuming, but ideally we're going to have robust guidance coming out of all of this. And currently we're looking to the Australian government to support this work, but we also have the interest of other collaborative groups that are working with us towards these goals. So all of this will give us an updated Chapter 7 in the JBI Manual for Evidence Synthesis, and we're really excited about this. It's a super accessed, super cited manual, and it's an internationally recognised source for the conduct of systematic reviews. And so we're going to have a body of empirical evidence to underpin it all. We're going to have new and strengthened collaborative partnerships. These are going to be both organisational and individual partnerships. And ultimately reflecting all of this innovation is what might be a new model for our methodology groups moving forward to really strengthen our methodological underpinnings at JBI. So I'm throwing this out there to everybody here before we get it to the scientific committee, just to get some feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what issues you foresee, what areas there are for opportunity, who we should be speaking to and collaborating with, and anything else that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll ask you to stay right where you are. I've been told I need to come here because this is my better side for the camera, apparently. Please, some more questions coming through in the chat. There will be roving mics if you just raise your hand. But on that score, Jennifer's presented something what's new in terms of innovations, and part of what's new here is indeed the way that this proposed group is due to work. Be quite innovative for how our methodology groups have run previously. So you mentioned other groups and the like, and this is, I guess, speaking a bit to what we spoke about on Monday, for those of you who were here, about working with partners and efficiency in the work that we do in JBI rather than doing things concurrently or reinventing the wheel that's already spinning. So who are some of these groups that you think might add some value here as you look forward towards your program?
We've had quite a few discussions about who we should be inviting, and I think we have come to the agreement that at the very least maybe the collaboration for environmental evidence and Campbell collaboration would be ideal for us. This includes environmental exposures, occupational, social sciences, and so that would be in line with what we want to do here.
Excellent. I guess an important part of this work is also, you've spoken about doing research, and there's that first scoping review that's going to look at existing guidance and where are there any gaps in terms of we know the trajectory of these types of reviews. And talking in regard, looking forward, our research generally needs, I guess, a model. And when we're talking about etiology and risk factors, we're talking about prevention, which is sometimes more difficult than treatment. It's broader. There are different factors involved. Any thoughts, any ideas, what if there are going to be any target or any foci, I guess, for for those researchers in terms of target of topic, or will that be something that you delve into with the advisory board around need, for example, where there may be a hole in syntheses within a particular area? Any ideas, any thoughts?
I think that's largely going to be dealt with through the scoping review and through the group. But obviously if we have funding partners, also their areas of need as well might be a priority for us, so that we can get this work done and keep everybody happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please, Mike here. Oh, here it comes.
Hi, I'm Itlampit. I'm with the NDIA, and I'm just wondering if you're thinking about getting users involved as well. Users of those reviews could probably contribute to how guidelines should, the forming of guidelines and how outputs should look like.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be working along with the working groups, and one of those working groups is stakeholder engagement, and that will allow us to work out who we should have on the team. We'll definitely have the JBIC involved and be asking them to have a look at what we're doing and use our methods and see what they think of them, and asking them for their feedback. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Well, important point, and I guess in terms of targeting appropriate knowledge users, yes, there are those users, the researchers, who ideally will be using the guidance and contributing, but some of it may depend on what's going to be the focus of the topic in terms of direction and the like. That, I think, is still yet to be established. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking about the users of the reviews
Yes.
that will use the guidance.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Down the food chain.
Yeah.
We're sort of forgotten back there.
Yeah. Yeah. We do that sometimes. Yeah. Okay.
And we get reviews that are hard to use.
Yeah, fantastic question. Thank you. Okay, if there aren't any more questions from the audience, I mean, thinking about the way our methodology groups have worked in JBI, we have seen some innovation thus far, and what springs to mind is our scoping review methodology group. And in terms of, I guess, dissemination and realisation of that work that's been done by JBI, one asset, or one feather in their bow, I guess, has been their network that they've established. Do you see some value in establishing something similar for this methodology group, and where do you see opportunity in that regard?
There has been a few discussions over the last few weeks at least on whether we take this further and add a network to the group. I think it's really going to depend on how much engagement we get in the group to begin with, and what the need is, whether there's a place for a network and what their purpose would be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, judging, as you said, that Chapter 7 of the manual is in fact, I think, one of the most highly accessed of the entire manual. So on that, other than scoping reviews, of course, sorry, I put that disclaimer in there. But if that's indicative of anything, I think there should be a great deal of interest. And on that point, I'd like to ask you all again to please join me in thanking Jennifer. Thank you so much.